Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH the Flame Emperor episode number 14 based on novel. So let's start. Xiao Yan also heard that these people in front of him had been playing dumb riddles. He was confused and didn't understand at all. However, I still learned some information from it. Although the 4-star Do Emperor powerhouses are forbidden to enter the ruins, the stunning beauty standing on the Qinglian stage has obviously suppressed her strength, so she has been hiding in the void, waiting for Xiao Yang and the others to break it. The crisis in the main hall was made good by the shot. Moreover, Xiao Yang also felt a dangerous aura from the Qinglian Tai woman. Xiao Yang himself is the strength of the 3-star Do Emperor in the middle stage, and the powerful perception of the ***** realm is combined with the power of the 3 mysterious transformations of the sky fire. Even the powerhouse in the early stage of the 4-star Do Emperor has the power to fight, but in front of the face-to-face the woman who stepped on the Qinglian Tai was filled with deep fear. Even the strange fire that Xiao Yang had always relied on seemed to be trembling. Even if the stunning woman in front of her suppressed her strength, she now only has the strength of the peak of the 3-star Do Di, but her true strength is beyond Xiao Yang's guess. The current Qinglian woman is also much stronger than Xiao Yang. No wonder Xiao Yang felt this way. This woman is really not easy. The Golden Dragon King in the ring has been observing Xiao Yang since the moment he entered the formation, and then the battle and breakthrough between Xiao Yang and the Guardian were all in his eyes. Don't give in too much. Xiao Yang naturally did not feel this, and then he heard the woman in white and Qinglian speak in the hall. Hey, dressed in white, she also sighed. What happened back then was really my fault. Looking at the distant void, he muttered to himself. Since you have a relationship with her, then I will also help you. In front of me is the skeleton of the owner of this relic. Because of my transactions with him, I want to protect him so that his inheritance can continue. The essence and blood you need should be in his bones. However, this kid also has some capital, and the people who can be selected by the fire elves are extraordinary, so I can't help you next. Fortune is a matter of suitability, otherwise it will be counterproductive. He also said slowly when he was dressed in white. When Xiao Yang heard that it was also hanging in the air, his heart instantly fell, and he thought that this man dressed in white would get in the way. However, the strength of this white-clothed man was really terrifying. Even if he could see through Xiao Yang's secret at a glance, the fire elf was hidden by Xiao Yang when he had to enter the hall, and was still discovered. Yeah. Xiao Yi also emerged from Xiao Yang's body at this moment, standing on Xiao Yang's shoulder and babbling non-stop. The woman who stepped on Qinglian also looked at Xiao Yi on Xiao Yang's shoulder with great interest. A fire elf is a rare thing in the world. To get it, you must not only have enough chances, but also have an honest heart. Otherwise, you will not be able to get the approval of the fire elf. My mission has also been completed, and whoever obtains good fortune next depends on your own abilities. It's also time to go back and deal with some things. Let's go. As soon as he finished speaking in white clothes, he flew straight out of the hall, and the 6 guardians of the relics followed behind. He was healed at a speed visible to the naked eye under the white grudge covered in white clothes. In the main hall, only Xiao Yang and the Qinglian woman were left, and the entire space became silent. After the 7 of them left in white clothes, a simple bronze gate appeared at the original dividing line and slowly closed. Although the 2 of them were not too worried about the sudden appearance of the bronze gate, Xiao Yang looked at the Qinglian woman and his heart sank. The mysterious woman who stepped on the green lotus. The Qinglian woman looked around, obviously looking at the main hall. The stone hall is not too luxurious, but it looks extraordinarily simple, empty, and there are not too many decorations. The Qinglian woman's eyes turned around in the stone hall, and then they condensed in the center of the stone hall. There is a tightly wrapped sarcophagus, and above the sarcophagus, there seems to be something. Go. The Qinglian woman raised her jade hand slightly, and a grudge containing the power of flame attacked the bones on the throne. The flame vindictiveness slowly surrounded the left and right hands of the throne's skeleton. Then the 2 of them saw that there were 2 dazzling rays of light on the left and right hands of the skeleton of the throne. Xiao Yang narrowed his eyes slightly, focusing on the 2 beams of light. Then, he vaguely saw that on the skeleton of the throne, there was a group of rays of light beating violently on the left and right palms respectively. Among the 2 groups of light, on the left is a black bead that seems to be condensed by dazzling energy, which is beating gently, and the one on the right is a white bead, which also exudes no less than black beads. Like power. And with the beating of the 2 black and white beads, the fighting spirit in the hall seemed to be shaking. You've already made it here, you can't give up if you say anything. Although Xiao Yang felt an extremely dangerous smell from the Qinglian woman, the terrifying energy contained in the 2 beads made Xiao Yang understand www.mtlnovel.com. This is the biggest treasure of the ruins. It's all close at hand, and there's no reason to give up. While the Qinglian woman was looking at the main hall, Xiao Yang hesitated for a while, and finally his figure flashed, and he went up the stone steps and headed straight for the throne. The Qinglian woman also clearly noticed Xiao Yang's actions. With a single move, Xiao Yang's palm that was about to touch the throne was isolated out of thin air, and an invisible cage of fighting qi trapped Xiao Yang. Xiao Yi, who was on her shoulders, looked at the sudden vindictive cage, and also opened her mouth, and a terrifying milky white flame appeared and flew towards the cage. The milky white flame touched the Qinglian woman's vindictive cage, and the vindictive cage was instantly evaporated into nothingness. Black and white yin and yang heart, it's interesting now. The Golden Dragon King sounded in Xiao Yang's heart with a somewhat playful voice. Is this the legendary yin and yang heart? Xiao Yang's eyes were also condensed in the beads condensed by the two groups of light. There was a bit of shock in his eyes, and his footsteps were slowly stepping out. However, just as Xiao Yang was stepping out, a faint voice with an ethereal aura suddenly sounded in this quiet stone hall. This is not where you should be. Even if it's you and the little guy on your shoulders, it can't be my opponent. So, take your fire elf and exit. The Qinglian woman also looked at Xiao Yang coldly and said. Xiao Yang's footsteps came to a halt. Immediately, he slowly raised his head, his eyes narrowed and looked at the mid-air. There, Qinglian was suspended. Through the hat, he could faintly see a quiet lotus-like shadow. He was using a pair of eyes that were so clear that they did not fluctuate at all, stared at him. Looking closely at this mysterious woman with bare jade feet stepping on a green lotus, Xiao Yang just realized her unique beauty. In that slender figure, her long hair is like the Milky Way, dazzling and dazzling, the blue dress is engraved with blue lotus, and the skirt shimmers with blue light. When it swings gently in the wind, it looks like lotus. The face under the hat must also be extremely beautiful. The fair cut is glowing with jade light, and the ruddy is slightly tilted up, which seems to be a little playful. The most striking thing about her is the pair of clear blue lotus eyes. The eyes are so pure that they can look directly at people's hearts, so that when everyone looks at the pair of eyes, they are a little fascinated. The elegant and slender neck like a swan has a delicate and collarbone under it and a chest that highlights the fullness of the locust. Further down, the curve gathers, outlines a slender waist that is gripped, and the figure is like gold. The perfect proportions, admiring the magic of the creator. This is really a girl like Zhongtiandi's aura. At the first sight of this girl, Xiao Yang remembered these words in his heart, and his eyes were full of surprise. This kind of woman, just like the fairy who fell from the fairyland to the mortal world, does not eat the fireworks of the world, not only has the beauty that stuns the world, but also that kind of beauty, so beautiful that it is so beautiful that there is no fireworks in the world. Invisibly makes people feel a kind of remote. As the saying goes, it can be viewed from a distance but cannot be played with, like the green lotus under its feet is as pure and clean. Xiao Yang's gaze swept across this mysterious woman, and the astonishing look in his eyes lasted for a while before slowly dissipating. What are you looking at? Young master, you should leave as soon as possible. The woman with her jade feet on the green lotus also noticed a trace of strangeness in Xiao Yang's eyes and said, Master, can I beat her? Difficult, this woman looks young, but her strength is particularly terrifying. I'm afraid she is not weaker than that month's patriarch. Even if you use all your cards, you will win less and lose more. The dignified voice of the Golden Dragon King was also in his heart. Quietly sounded, if it was in its prime or attached to Xiao Yang, it would naturally not care, but right now, there was nothing to do. Master, what about your possession? Xiao Yang obviously did not give up. I believe you have discovered it yourself. The previous possession caused too much damage to yourself. You can't do it in a short period of time, otherwise it will hurt the root bone. The Golden Dragon King also said solemnly. Hearing this, Xiao Yang also gave a wry smile and rolled his eyes, a little helpless. Although the baby is good, but also have a life to enjoy. So he cupped his hands to the mysterious woman and said, Xiao Yang has no intention to treasures with the girl, and just broke in just to see what the emperor left behind. Even the favored sons of the sky near Qingcheng were expelled. You can break in, but you have some ability. The tulle under the hat on the mysterious woman's cheeks trembled gently, and the clear voice was like dripping jade. And that tone was also somewhat inexplicable. Obviously, she had secretly watched Xiao Yang subdue the bloodthirsty dragon, and after defeating the guardian, she would not believe Xiao Yang's words by mistake. This woman not only has a peerless appearance, but also has a lot of wisdom in her heart. My name is Su Shuiying. Since young master Xiao Yang has no intention of competing, then Shuiying will thank you first. I don't want to do it by force, so I also ask young master Xiao Yang not to be overbearing. In midair, Su Shuiying gave Xiao Yang Ying a salute, but although her voice was extraordinarily polite, Xiao Yang could hear the faint warning. In this regard, Xiao Yang can only spread his hands. This woman is too terrifying, and she can't beat her. Moreover, Xiao Yang also understands, don't take this woman so easy to talk on the surface. He is sure that if he really dares to do bad things, I'm afraid this woman won't show any mercy. Although this peerless beauty in front of her seems to be gentle and even soft-spoken, but in her heart, she is probably like a mysterious ice, which can be touched at the touch of a touch. Seeing Xiao Yang's actions, Su Shuiying turned her gaze back. She could see Xiao Yang's strength, the middle stage of the three-star fighting emperor. Although she had some doubts about how the latter broke into this place, she felt that she was using the power of the fire elves. But in general, she did not pay too much attention to it. She had seen too many young heroes. Therefore, she also had confidence. Even if Xiao Yang stayed here, once he made a change, she would use her with his strength. He could easily subdue him. Although he had spent a lot of money to temporarily seal his strength in order to enter this ruin, it was more than enough to deal with Xiao Yang. Therefore, her act of not forcibly driving her away, from a certain point of view, is more like a silent contempt, because she is confident that no matter what Xiao Yang's plans are, it is impossible for her to have the slightest impact on her. Su Shuiying's eyes moved away from Xiao Yang's body, and then looked at the light group above the throne's bones. She also saw the two yin and yang hearts hidden in her hands, but even in the face of such treasures, in her clear mu, there were only some fluctuations, and there was no surprise on her cheeks. Such concentration is really extraordinary. I didn't expect to be able to see yin and yang hearts here. There is only one attribute of yin or yang in the human body. I don't know if it is true or not. There was a hint of surprise in Su Shuiying's sweet voice. Immediately, she raised her hand lightly, and a blue light swept out from her fingertips, and then turned into a palm, directly grasping the white bead tightly. Live. Facing Su Shuiying's grasp, the white beads also trembled rapidly, exuding an extremely tyrannical resistance. Break. Seeing that the resistance of the light group was so fierce, Su Shuiying volleyed a little again, and the green lotus under her feet fell off a petal, and then turned into a light blue rainbow light, which slammed heavily on the protection in white the light cluster above the bead. With the bombardment of the cyan and red light, the light group suddenly trembled violently, and cracks appeared quietly. From this appearance, it was obvious that they could not resist Su Shuiying's destruction. The light shattered, revealing the white beads. The Qinglian woman made a move, and the white beads flew straight from the bones of the throne into her hands. It's strange to say, since the Qinglian woman got the white yin and yang heart, the space around the woman seemed to have a trace of strangeness and became silent again. Xiao Yang also stood there dumbfounded, from which white beads he felt an unprecedented powerful force. Boom! The woman with her jade feet stepping on the green lotus suddenly exuded a thick fire attribute grudge, and then, while Xiao Yang was stunned, strands of tiny blue flames emanated from the green lotus woman's body. Why is the black yin and yang heart gone? The Qinglian woman was also puzzled, and then she stared at the skeleton of the throne, but she didn't find it. It should have been dazzling just now. Immediately, he turned his head and prepared to refine the yin and yang heart first. Xiao Yang could not help shrinking his pupils when he saw the cyan flame on the woman above the green lotus. With Xiao Yang's current soul perception, he could feel the horror that was not inferior to Xiao Yi from the cyan flame. The temperature, Xiao Yi on her shoulders also became solemn for the first time at the moment when the flame appeared. This volatility is holy flame. Xiao Yang's exclamation resounded throughout the hall. At the moment when the blue flame on the Qinglian woman's body appeared, the air in the hall was severely cooled, and the scorching temperature was mixed with the icy chill. And if you look carefully, the white yin and yang hearts on the Qinglian woman's hands have condensed into ice cubes under the baking of the flames. Oh! You have good eyesight, you can actually recognize Shenyang. The Qinglian woman was also surprised. It is impossible for ordinary people to see a strange thing born from the power of heaven and earth like holy flame, and it is even more impossible to know holy flame through soul perception. Because, although the holy flame has always been rumored to have a huge power of fire, it is called holy flame. But this is not the case. Holy flame is the condensed body of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the great world. It does not necessarily have to have the power of flame to be holy flame. The real holy flame, the power of flame, is the foundation, and there are other mysteries attached. Strength. The legendary holy flame in the world has many effects of purifying evil and expelling evil spirits, but the birth of holy flame between heaven and earth is too rare, so the records are also pitiful. It was naturally impossible for Xiao Yang to recognize that the Qinglian woman was using the holy flame. As early as when the Qinglian woman summoned the flame to refine the white yin and yang heart, the voice of the Golden Dragon King sounded in Xiao Yang's heart. Immediately, Xiao Yang stared blankly at the stunning woman with jade feet stepping on Qinglian in front of him, and he couldn't help but remember the words that Yarou Laro had said to him when he first introduced Ihua to him in Dochi continent. In this vast world, there are some strange fires from heaven and earth. Maybe it is the cluster of flames carried by the center of the meteorite falling from the sky, or it may be the lava fire that has been burned for thousands of years in the depths of the volcano. The power of these strange fires is a bit stronger than the fire attribute flames catalyzed by fighting qi. If you refine the medicine, you can also increase the medicinal power of the medicine pill. However, these strange fires in the world are extremely violent, and it is rare to meet each other on weekdays, and even if you see it, it is extremely difficult to take it for your own use. Many alchemists have searched for the strange fire all their lives, but in the end they have not gotten what they wanted. After all, if you want to control the strange fire, you need to introduce the flame into your body, and the strange fire is all violent destruction. It is the magic gold diamond, a metal material that is famous for its sturdiness. Below, they can refine a small cluster of different fires and cultivate them into their own fire, and these people, without exception, are the leaders in the refining world. The words of his master Yarrow Larrow echoed in his ears, and his eyes couldn't help but get a little wet. Master, is this really holy flame? Xiao Yang apparently calmed down a little, and then looked a little excitedly at the small flame on the Qinglian woman in front of him, as if he wanted to compare holy flame and abnormal fire. Idea. You can't go wrong, this is one of the 36 holy flames between heaven and earth. Looking at the appearance of this little girl, the whole body of the flame is cyan, and it contains the power of extreme cold. This is very likely to be the legendary 23rd holy flame, the green and cold flames. Yuqing Wanhanyan, the 23rd on the holy flame list, this flame was born in the extremely cold place of 10,000 years. It is a mixture of scorching flames and absolute 0 degrees. The extremely cold place was originally a forbidden area for human life. 10,000 years in an extremely cold place, even the battle chi and blood in the body of a fighting immortal strong person will quickly solidify, and it is impossible to stay for 10 minutes, let alone subdue this holy flame born by inheriting the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It is very difficult in itself to obtain the power of holy flame. The Golden Dragon King briefly introduced. And the holy flame is only stronger than your strange fire, and it is even more difficult to conquer. Xiao Yang's brows also looked at this Qinglian woman in surprise. He didn't expect that he just came to Dodi continent and met a person with holy flame. However, this so-called Yuqing Wanhanyan is very similar to his teacher Yarrow Larrow's bone spirit coldfire, but the flame power in it is very different. If the bone spirit coldfire is the leader in the mixture of flame and ice cold in different fires, then Yuqing Wanhanyan is like a king in flames and extreme cold. Xiao Yang also shrank his pupils tightly, staring at the Qinglian woman in front of him. The origin of the Qinglian woman in front of her should be extremely mysterious. From what Wu Huan said before, she knew that this woman was not from the Shenling continent. The 4 continents on the Dudi continent, except the Shenling continent, the strength of the other 3 continents is very tyrannical, and the Qinglian under the jade feet of this Qinglian woman is not a mortal thing. She has a beautiful appearance, powerful strength, and the most mysterious holy flame in the world. The identities of the 3 all indicate that the woman in front of her is absolutely absolute. Not simple. Xiao Yi, who was on Xiao Yang's shoulder, was accompanied by the appearance of the Qinglian woman's cyan holy flame. First, there was a trace of fear, and then a trace of excitement, which really made Xiao Yang puzzled. From this, Xiao Yang has always wondered what is the direct relationship between Sheng Yang and Yi Hua. Looking back, the white yin and yang heart on the Qinglian woman's jade hand was slowly being surrounded by the cyan fire she summoned, and the cyan flame was burning continuously. With the burning of the cyan flame, a ray of light appeared on the white yin and yang heart, trembling, just like the light of the automatic protector. But the blue flame is holy flame after all. This trembling didn't last long, the light burst with a bang, and with the burst of light, the one in it was condensed by the Emperor's lifelong cultivation essence. The energy white beads formed are also exposed to the air. With the exposure of this yin and yang heart, in this stone hall, it was like a tide of fighting chi, and there was a crisp sound of water. Xiao Yang raised his head and looked at the fluorescent white energy beads with fiery eyes. This is the most precious thing in the hall. However coveted in his heart, when he saw the figure above the green lotus, it became a lot colder again. Xiao Yang frowned tightly. Although he extremely did not want to admit it, he still understood that he would do it. If so, I'm afraid the success rate is not high, and he doesn't think that this woman who even wears a white robe is a 5-star fighting emperor who treats her with dignity. She would be so simple and completely rest assured that he will stay here. Therefore, for him every move, the latter must be taken precautions. In midair, Su Shuiying looked at the white yin and yang heart floating in front of her eyes. With a light grip of her jade hand, several azure flames shot out from the azure lotus under her feet, all of which irradiated on the yin and yang heart. With the irradiation of the cyan flame, white mist suddenly appeared on the yin and yang's heart, and there were actually signs of melting on the surface. Whoa! For this scene, Su Shuiying was not surprised. When she lifted her hand lightly, more and more blue flames swept out of the green lotus at the speed of light, and finally focused on the yin and yang heart. And as more and more cyan flames converged, the melting speed of the yin-yang heart also intensified rapidly. After about a few minutes, a yin-yang heart turned into a white liquid. The liquid flows slowly in the air, and faintly, there is an extremely terrifying fluctuation that permeates from it. Xiao Yang below, under this pressure, his body seemed to be several times heavier, and even the fighting spirit that was running in his body became slower, and his expression became extremely dignified. Moreover, Xiao Yang looked at the white yin and yang heart in the hands of the Qinglian woman, and at the black beads on the throne, and had a bold guess in his heart. This kind of coercion that made Xiao Yang feel like a mountain, but did not cause any hindrance to Su Shuiying. The pair of Qing Mo stared at the white liquid, and then she stretched out her jade-like plain hand and gently opened it gracefully. On the corner of the tulle under the hat, the sandalwood mouth opened lightly, and the white liquid in the air whistled down and submerged into the rosy sandalwood mouth. Crench. Xiao Yang didn't have time to appreciate Su Shuiying's startling glance when he lifted a corner of the tulle. When he saw this woman swallowing the yin-yang heart without hesitation, he couldn't help clenching his fists, his eyes constantly flashing, weighing the pros and cons of hands-on, as well as victory and defeat. The flickering eyes lasted for a while, and finally calmed down. Xiao Yang's complexion was a little ugly, and his eyes were full of unwillingness. After weighing it, he chose to stop wisely, perhaps because of his strong soul power. He always felt that the woman in the air was watching his every move. Forget it, although the yin and yang heart is precious, it's not worth losing your life for it. But why didn't this woman take black beads? Could it really be? Looking at Su Shuiying, who was about to refine her white yin and yang heart, Xiao Yang couldn't help but wonder. Xiao Yang comforted himself with such helplessness in his heart. Although he was still a little depressed, he was helpless. The situation was not as good as others. When Xiao Yang decided to give up, Su Shuiying, who had already sucked all the liquid from the yin and yang heart into Tan's mouth in midair, suddenly turned around, looked at the former, and immediately let out a faint laugh. Young Master Xiao Yang is trustworthy. Man, next I want to refine the energy of yin and yang heart. I hope you don't disturb me. Hearing this, Xiao Yang gave a dry laugh, somewhat like a smirk, but in the end he nodded. Xiao Yang's guess couldn't help being somewhat certain. Then Su Shuiying didn't mind how real or fake Xiao Yang's smile was. She gracefully sat cross-legged on Qinglian, her beautiful eyes slowly closed, and then Qinglian emitted a layer of cyan light, covering her entire body. The body is wrapped in. Oh, what a bad luck. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang couldn't help but scolded him in a low voice. He worked so hard to reach the last place, but he didn't even catch a hair. Compared with the previous great harvest, it was simply two extremes. However, despite the scolding, Xiao Yang still had no choice. Su Shuiying's Qinglian was obviously a very powerful treasure, and the latter was obviously still guarding him. So after scolding, Xiao Yang could only glance at the stone hall, then looked at the sarcophagus, hesitated for a moment, and walked over slowly. Since everyone came here, he had to see if there was anything else. Baby. After seeing this series of actions, the Qinglian woman seemed to have less supervision over Xiao Yang. It's better to give up, otherwise. After the Qinglian woman finished speaking, she concentrated on dealing with the white energy in front of her. Xiao Yang also seemed to be aware of Dao Qinglian's relaxation of supervision, and immediately walked towards the throne slowly, approaching step by step. Only Xiao Yang knew that it was the black beads who did this. Everything just now was just a disguise, in order to deceive this Qinglian woman. Approaching the sarcophagus, he found that it was tightly wrapped. Xiao Yang had no intention of offending, but with a wave of his hand, the lid of the sarcophagus flew away. When I opened the sarcophagus, there was a skeleton lying flat. There were a lot of gold and silver jewelry around the skeleton. I thought it should have been a woman before her death, and it can be seen from the burial next to the skeleton of the throne that the skeleton of the woman inside the coffin, it should have something to do with the skeleton on the throne. He looked at it and found that there was nothing else in it except the skeleton and some trivial gold and silver jewelry. He sighed in disappointment. A few minutes later, when the Qinglian woman in front of her began to absorb the white yin and yang heart, she whistled away to the other palm on the throne. Because there is still a black yin and yang heart that exudes the same fluctuations as the white yin and yang heart. The moment Xiao Yang got the black yin and yang heart, the space around the Qinglian woman shattered. Formation. The Qinglian woman also didn't realize when she actually had a formation by her side. Is that the kid? With his strength in the middle of the 3-star Dodi, it was impossible to do it silently, and then the Qinglian girl Daimu also slowly swept towards where Xiao Yang was. Mai frowned, and the Qinglian woman saw a black bead in Xiao Yang's hand. The beads exude the same breath as the white beads that he just refined and swallowed. Give me. The Qinglian woman also flew out a terrifying blue flame from under the Qinglian and attacked Xiao Yang. Apparently, she also found out that she was trapped in the formation of the owner of the ruins just now, so she didn't see the black beads, or she would definitely not let this treasure go because of her personality. His meowing. Xiao Yang also knew the extraordinariness of this cyan flame, and immediately moved his eyes and devoured the black beads directly into his stomach. 3,000 thunderbolts unfolded in an instant and escaped behind the skeleton of the throne. Boom. Even if the Qinglian woman is devouring and refining the white yin and yang heart, the attack she unleashes is very powerful. The skeleton of the throne was attacked by blue flames, and it made a sound. After the aftermath passed, the throne bones remained motionless, but above the bones, the vertebrae were baked by the attack of the cyan flame, and some faint rays of light appear. The traces of light were a bit like scrolls. Xiao Yang was also a sharp-eyed person, and only then did he see the faint rays of light above the bones of the throne. With lightning speed, he skipped the vertebrae with his palms, and put the thing in the receiving ring. The Qinglian woman was obviously very surprised why there was still something similar to the yin and yang heart, but she felt the same fluctuations as the energy in front of her from the fluctuations emanating from the black bead. But at this time, she was already an important part of devotion, so she had to concentrate and not be distracted. In any case, Xiao Yan couldn't run away from the ruins. After he had refined it, he would just grab the black beads. The hardness of this bead, even if Com was swallowed into the stomach by Xiao Yang, it would not be refined for a while, and immediately absorbed the energy in front of him with all his strength. The Qinglian woman didn't know that Xiao Yang's body was forged by 23 kinds of different fires. Although the different fires couldn't compare to the holy flames, the fire attribute fighting qi and energy in Xiao Yang's body were absolutely comparable to hers. The black beads were also slowly refined and decomposed by the strange fire when Xiao Yang swallowed them. Xiao Yang saw that the Qinglian woman had no free time to attack him, so she landed on the ground and came to the sarcophagus. These two seniors have taken a lot of things from you, and the juniors made do with salute to you. Glancing at the bones in the coffin, Xiao Yang said helplessly, after looking at the bones on the throne. What are the black beads? How come there is no reaction after eating it? And then, he didn't care about the black beads he just ate, so he bowed to the bones of the two. However, the moment Xiao Yang bent over, his eyes suddenly saw that in the sarcophagus, on the inner coffin wall beside the skeleton, there seemed to be some boys, and he hurried over. In my life, I live by the power of yang, and my lover lives by the power of yin. After death, it becomes a double heart of yin and yang. And then bent over to the skeleton on the throne. Because there are still several striking characters on the throne of the bones, this good fortune is not a combination of yin and yang. The short two sentences made Xiao Yang stunned for a while, frowning and thinking for a while, then he suddenly understood what it meant, and then suddenly looked at Su Shuiying in midair, a face, and immediately it's become extremely exciting and weird. However, at this time, Xiao Yang also had terrifying forces flowing out of his body. Xiao Yang's eyes also became abnormal at this moment. Xiao Yang is not stupid enough to think that the so-called yin-yang power in the sarcophagus and on the throne is the yin-yang of heaven and earth. In combination with the fact that the white yin and yang hearts obtained by the Qinglian women are hidden by the mysterious formation and cannot see the black yin and yang hearts, this so-called yin and yang is likely to be the male yang. This thing is called the power of yin and yang, to put it nicely, and it is called the power of double cultivation in a bad way. Xiao Yang has also heard about the power of strengthening his own people, but this kind of thing that is despised by ordinary people actually happens in front of yourself. Therefore, when Xiao Yang discovered that the owner of the tomb and his lover actually practiced through this combination of yin and yang, his expression became extremely strange, and then his eyes turned to sit on the green lotus in midair. Su Shuiying. Judging from the small characters, Xiao Yang knew that the owner of this tomb must have done it on purpose. Who would go to the corner of the coffin to see those inconspicuous traces, and if ordinary people don't know the mystery, they will refine them at will. Yin and yang heart, then the final result will be as said on the coffin wall, the fruit will be burnt. Even if the master of the tomb is dead, the good fortune that remains will not forget to toss the people who came after, which makes people a little speechless. Under Xiao Yang's gaze, Su Shuiying, who was sitting cross-legged on the green lotus, still seemed quite calm. The so-called fruit of burning her body did not appear, which made Xiao Yang suspicious of the writing on the coffin wall. Authenticity. Could it be that these handwritings are also deceiving? Or did the yin and yang mind lose its efficacy due to too long? Xiao Yang muttered in disappointment. Boom. However, just as Xiao Yang's muttering sound fell, a sound of energy surging suddenly came from the air. He hurriedly raised his head, but saw that a violent energy wave suddenly appeared in the green lotus. And the source of that fluctuation was Su Shuiying's body. Sure enough. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang's heart skipped a beat. Above the green lotus, Su Shuiying's bamboo hat also fell with a bang, and through the snow-white skin of the Confucian-style skirt that was exposed outside the clothes, a touch of rosy flushed at this moment. Xiao Yang felt an extremely pure and powerful energy. Continuously roaring out of his body, the light curtain of the green lotus was shaken to send out ripples. At this time, Su Shuiying also obviously found something wrong. There was a chill in the clear moon, and she saw her slender hands fly up, and a very strong blue fighting spirit also erupted from her body. I want to suppress the raging cold energy as much as possible. The green lotus flickered, and waves of violent blue energy fluctuations continuously came out from Su Shuiying's body. It could be seen that at this moment, her body was caught in a fierce confrontation. Xiao Yang below saw that Su Shuiying could even temporarily suppress the energy of the yin and yang heart, and couldn't help but slapped her tongue secretly. This woman's strength is really terrifying. However, although it was in a stalemate, it was short-lived after all. The yin-yang heart was the essence of the lifelong cultivation of a person who was as strong as the peak of the 7-star Do Di. No matter how amazing Su Shuiying was, her strength was now suppressed. After all, there is still some gap between them. Therefore, when the confrontation between the two lasted for about a few minutes, the green lotus light curtains suddenly burst away, and Su Shuiying's whole body was almost covered by a layer of extremely covered by pure yin qi. In normal times, this might be a great tonic for Su Shuiying, but once this kind of thing is overdone, it is a peerless poison. If it accumulates in the body, it will turn into pure yin fire, burning the body from the inside out. You did a good job. Although Su Shuiying is an unmanned girl, she also understands her current situation. This seems to be. It's just shameless. On Qinglian, Su Shuiying stood up abruptly, her tone was cold, and then, she wanted to raise her hand, and a very strong cyan vindictiveness shot out, turned into a giant palm, and slapped the skeleton of the throne fiercely and the sarcophagus. Bang! A loud noise sounded, and the sarcophagus and the bones inside were directly smashed into pieces, but the bones on the throne were intact. Seeing this scene, the corner of Xiao Yang's mouth twitched. This woman is really not a good person, she just took the yin and yang heart of others, and the next moment she turned her face and left other people's wives to pieces. Xiao Yang cautiously stepped back some distance. This woman is now in a state of rampage, and at this time, if she is slapped to death, she will not be able to complain. Before the two of them were aware of it, a little red light flickered faintly in the dust of the smashed sarcophagus. After slapping the shattered sarcophagus to vent her anger, Su Shuiying's delicate body trembled again. She could feel that there was a flame that was slowly forming in her body. The flame was not hot, but filled with endless yin, cold and icy, but under this kind of flame, the majestic fighting spirit in her body is beginning to become a little stiff. With her current strength, it is indeed difficult to resist the stay of a peak 7-star Do Emperor. Su Shuiying's clear move flickered quickly after a while. She suddenly clenched her silver teeth and turned her eyes to look at the only person here. Seeing that Su Shuiying's eyes finally came over, Xiao Yang's face shook slightly, his footsteps slowly retreated, and he said with a dry smile, "Miss Su, I don't think it's appropriate to stay here for a long time, so I'll take a step first and leave." As soon as the voice fell, he fled directly at the bronze gate. Seeing Xiao Yang running so fast now, Su Shuiying was also very angry. Why didn't you know when to leave just now? In the end, Xiao Yang did not escape as he wished. When he was about to run to the bronze gate, an extremely strong wind came from behind him. Xiao Yang also had an idea, and his figure flashed. He slammed into the closed bronze door heavily. Seeing that the tightly closed bronze gate was not opened even by such a powerful attack, Xiao Yang could only helplessly turn around and look at Su Shuiying, who was slowly floating in front of her on the green lotus, her brows slightly wrinkled. Said, "What do you want? It's none of my business if you get caught. Hand over that black yin and yang heart." Su Shuiying also noticed the slightest strangeness in her body, and then spoke viciously to Xiao Yang. "Sorry, that thing has already been eaten by me." Xiao Yang opened his mouth to face the Qinglian woman. This kind of yin and yang heart condensed by the peak powerhouses of the 7-star Do Emperor, how powerful is contained in it. Xiao Yang also knew that he could not beat this woman, so he swallowed it as early as he got it. "Spit it out for me." The Qinglian woman's complexion turned pink, and her tone was softened at this moment. "Since it's in my stomach, how can I spit it out?" Xiao Yang also said indifferently. This video will end here.